What if I told you that one of humanity's oldest inventions, a slippery, sudsy block we take for granted, has a story as wild as a blockbuster movie? From ancient rituals in Mesopotamia to the gleaming factories of the Industrial Revolution, soap has cleaned more than just our hands. It's shaped empires, sparked revolutions, and built billion-dollar businesses. Welcome to Industrium, where we dive deep into how things are made, the engineering behind them, and the business brains that make it all happen. Today, we're scrubbing up the fascinating, frothy history of soap. Let's dive in. Our story begins around 2800 BCE in ancient Mesopotamia, in what's now modern-day Iraq. Picture this, a bustling city along the Tigris River, where priests and traders are busy inventing writing, mathematics, and, yep, soap. But this wasn't your lavender-scented bar from the supermarket. The earliest soap was a gritty paste made from animal fat and wood ash. Think of it like the world's first chemistry experiment, born from necessity and a bit of happy accident. These early soap makers weren't trying to smell like a spring meadow. Soap was sacred, used in religious rituals to purify the body before offerings to the gods. The Sumerians, ever the innovators, recorded their soap recipes on clay tablets. One recipe called for mixing potash, ash from burned plants, with animal tallow. Boil it together, and you've got a crude cleanser that could scrub a priest clean enough to meet the divine. Here's the science, broken down like a recipe for your favorite dish. When you mix a fat, like tallow or olive oil, with an alkaline substance, like ash or lye, you trigger a chemical reaction called saponification. The fats break down into fatty acid salts and glycerol. Those salts? That's soap. It's like a molecular superhero. One end loves water, the other loves oil, so it grabs dirt and washes it away. Simple, yet brilliant. Back then, the process was more art than science. No thermometers, no pH meters, just a keen eye and a lot of trial and error. Imagine stirring a cauldron of bubbling goo, hoping you didn't accidentally make a mess instead of a miracle. Fast forward to ancient Egypt, around 1500 BCE. The Egyptians took soap to the next level, using it for laundry and medical purposes. They mixed natron, a naturally occurring soda ash, with oils to create a cleaner that could tackle everything from greasy tunics to skin ailments. Soap wasn't just for the elite, it was a practical tool for keeping a civilization sparkling. But who came up with that name? Well, the word soap might come from Mount Sapo, a mythical hill in ancient Rome where animal sacrifices left fat and ash that washed into the Tiber River, creating a natural detergent? Probably a legend. Let's hop to ancient Rome, where cleanliness was next to godliness, or at least, next to a good bath. The Romans didn't use soap quite like we do today. Instead, they slathered themselves with olive oil and scraped it off with a tool called a strigil. Sounds weird, right? But around the 2nd century CE, they started experimenting with soap, inspired by their neighbors, the Gauls. The Gauls, a Celtic people in what's now France, were soap pioneers. They mixed goat tallow and beechwood ash to create a product so effective that Roman soldiers brought it back home. By the time the Roman Empire was in full swing, soap was a staple in bathhouses, used for washing hair and clothes. Here's where things get quirky. The Gauls also used soap as a hair pomade, dyeing their locks bright red or blonde with it. Imagine a fierce warrior with a spiked, soapy hairstyle charging into battle. But soap wasn't cheap. Making it required animal fat, which meant slaughtering livestock, and lye, which was labor-intensive to produce from ash. For the average Roman, soap was a luxury, not a daily essential. This is our first glimpse of soap's economic impact: high capex, capital expenditure, for sourcing raw materials, and high OPEX, operational expenditure, for the labor-intensive process. For a small soap-making operation, the return on investment wasn't exactly sudsy. Soap's popularity spread along Roman trade routes, with olive oil-based soaps becoming a hit in places like Greece and Syria. In fact, the city of Aleppo in modern-day Syria became famous for its hard olive oil soap, still made today using techniques from 2,000 years ago. Talk about a product with staying power. As the Roman Empire crumbled, Europe entered the so-called Dark Ages, and soap took a back seat. Bathing fell out of fashion, and some folks thought it was downright unhealthy. But soap didn't disappear entirely, it just got a medieval makeover. In the Islamic world, soap making flourished. By the 7th century, artisans in the Middle East were crafting luxurious soaps scented with jasmine, rose, and even musk. These weren't just cleansers, they were status symbols, traded across the Silk Road. Meanwhile, in Europe, monasteries kept the soap-making flame alive, producing small batches for religious and medicinal use. Medieval soap-making was a slow, smelly affair. Picture a massive iron kettle over an open fire, filled with rancid fat and lye made from wood ash. The mixture had to be stirred for hours, sometimes days, to get the right consistency. It was like cooking a giant unappetizing stew that could burn your skin if you weren't careful. Despite the effort, soap was a hot commodity. By the 12th century, soap-making guilds popped up in cities like Marseille, France, and Savona, Italy. Marseille soap, made with olive oil, became so famous that it set the standard for quality. Here's a business lesson: consistency builds trust. Marseille's soap makers standardized their process, ensuring every bar was pure and effective, which gave them a competitive edge in trade. Fun fact: in 1371, King Charles V of France passed a law regulating soap production to prevent fraudsters from selling low-quality bars mixed with chalk or flour. Economically, soap was a game-changer. A small workshop could turn cheap ingredients, fat from slaughterhouses, ash from fireplaces, into a product that fetched a tidy profit. The ROI was solid, especially for coastal cities with access to olive oil. But scaling up was tough. Soap making was still a batch process, limited by the size of the kettle and the skill of the maker. Fast forward to the early 19th century, and enter Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon wasn't just a military genius, he was a hygiene enthusiast. In 1811, he passed a law requiring French soldiers to use soap regularly. But why? Dirty soldiers got sick, and sick soldiers don't win wars. Napoleon's soap law mandated that every soldier carry a bar of soap, and he even set standards for its quality. This wasn't just about cleanliness, it was about efficiency. A healthy army meant lower medical costs and fewer losses on the battlefield. In business terms, Napoleon was optimizing his OPEX by investing in preventive care. Napoleon's law sparked a soap-making boom. French manufacturers scaled up production, and new techniques emerged. One key innovation was the use of soda ash instead of potash. Soda ash, derived from salt, was cheaper and produced a harder, longer-lasting soap. It's like upgrading from a flip phone to a smartphone, same job, better results. But there was a catch: soda ash was expensive to produce until a brilliant chemist named Nicolas Leblanc came along. In 1791, Leblanc invented a process to make soda ash from salt, limestone, and coal. Suddenly, soap making became more affordable, and the industry took off. Leblanc's process was a game-changer, slashing production costs and boosting ROI for soap makers. Leblanc's story has a bittersweet twist. Despite his invention revolutionizing the chemical industry, he died penniless after political turmoil and patent disputes. Welcome to the Industrial Revolution, where soap making went from small kettles to massive factories. By the mid-1800s, steam power, mechanized equipment, and chemical advances turned soap into a mass-produced marvel. Think of it like the assembly line for cars, but for bubbles. One key breakthrough was the continuous saponification process. Instead of cooking soap in batches, factories could now run a steady stream of ingredients through heated pipes, producing soap faster and cheaper. This slashed OPEX and allowed manufacturers to scale up without breaking the bank. Here's how it worked: fats and lye were pumped into a heated reactor, where they mixed and reacted in real time. The resulting soap was extruded, cooled, and cut into bars, all automated. It was like a culinary robot baking cookies 24/7, except these cookies cleaned your laundry. This era also saw the rise of soap empires, and no one did it better than William Procter and James Gamble. In 1837, these two Cincinnati entrepreneurs, a candle maker and a soap maker, joined forces to create Procter and Gamble. Their big break? Winning a contract to supply soap to the Union Army during the American Civil War. P&G's genius wasn't just in making soap, it was in branding it. In 1879, they launched Ivory Soap, a game-changer that floated on water. Why floating soap? A happy accident. A worker left a mixing machine running too long, whipping air into the soap, making it less dense than water. P&G turned this mistake into a marketing goldmine, advertising Ivory as the soap that floats. Business Insight Alert. P&G's success shows the power of branding and innovation. By turning a manufacturing flub into a unique selling point, they captured market share and built trust. Their capex investment in new machinery paid off with massive ROI, as Ivory became a household name. P&G didn't stop there. They pioneered quality control, ensuring every bar met strict standards, and they invested in advertising to reach the growing middle class. By 1900, P&G was a soap juggernaut, proving that a simple product, well-made and well-marketed, could clean up in the marketplace. Here is a fun fact. The 9944/100% pure slogan for Ivory soap came from a chemical analysis showing the soap was almost entirely free of impurities. It's like saying your car is 99.44% free of rust, technically true, and it sounds pretty darn impressive. By the 20th century, soap making was a full-blown industrial powerhouse. Factories used advanced engineering to optimize every step of the process. Think PLCs, programmable logic controllers, monitoring temperature and pH, robotic arms cutting bars with precision, and conveyor belts churning out thousands of bars per hour. One modern marvel? The vacuum spray drying process, which removes water from liquid soap to create concentrated detergent powders. It's like dehydrating fruit to make it last longer, but for soap. This innovation cut shipping costs and made detergents more shelf-stable, boosting ROI for manufacturers. Economically, soap became a cash cow. The global soap market today is worth over $40 billion, driven by demand for everything from bar soap to liquid hand wash. For engineers, the challenge is efficiency. How do you minimize waste, reduce energy use, and maximize output? For decision makers, it's about balancing capex for new equipment with OPEX savings from automation. Take Unilever, another soap giant. Their Dove brand, launched in 1957, revolutionized the market with moisturizing soap. By adding a quarter moisturizing cream, Dove stood out in a crowded market, proving that innovation doesn't always mean new tech. It can mean a new formula. Quirky fact alert. In the 1920s, Lever Brothers, now part of Unilever, sponsored radio dramas to advertise their soap. These shows were so popular they gave us the term soap opera. From ancient Mesopotamian rituals to the gleaming factories of today, soap's journey is a testament to human ingenuity. It's a story of chemistry, engineering, and business savvy, with a few quirky twists along the way, like floating soap, Napoleon's hygiene obsession, and soap operas. For engineers, soap making is a masterclass in process optimization, from batch kettles to continuous production lines. For decision makers, it's a lesson in turning simple ingredients into global empires, with brands like Procter & Gamble and Unilever showing how innovation and marketing can clean up in the marketplace. So next time you lather up, remember, you're holding a piece of history, a product that's been refined over 5,000 years to keep us clean, healthy, and, let's be honest, a little bit pampered. Love this deep dive into the sudsy world of soap? Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to join us for more stories about how things are made, from the engineering to the business brains behind them. Drop a comment below. What's the weirdest soap fact you learned today? And check out our video on the history of paper next. It's a page-turner. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Stay curious, and keep it clean.